Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it is a bird. It's the Quirky Bird Show with your host, Robin Savage.
Welcome to the Quirky Bird Show. I guess I had to actually figure out which mic I was going to use. I am your host, Robin Savage, where we talk about all things quirky in the comedic world of the arts, or the world of the comedic arts. I made that own tagline, and I never get it right. I'm writing by myself. I usually have a co-host. Wasn't able to get anyone in the studio, but I will have several people calling in. I have Jose Sardui, who does a lot for the military. He's a very funny comedian who is in the Air Force, and he has a whole military show that he brings in. He's represents the Air Force. He has someone from the Army out there. He's got a Marine. He's got a Navy. Hey, Nolan, you were in the Armed Forces, weren't you?
Off we go into the wild blue yonder. Yes, Air Force.
Air Force. Okay, I thought you were a Marine.
Do I look like I? Do you think I would structure as a Marine? No.
Not with the long hair now, but I thought maybe
5-star hotel rooms or nothing. That's how I do it.
Well, Jose Sardui is an Air Force guy and a comedian, and he's got a bunch of stuff lined up. Also, I have Steve Netta coming in. He's never, I don't think, served in the military, but he goes and does military shows where, like the old Bob Hope thing, where you go and you entertain the troops. I decided to do that today since we are in September 11th, as everyone in the face of the earth probably knows it's September 11th. So I decided to make today's episode be about military comedians and the comedians who entertain the troops, the comedians who are the entertainment and also entertain the troops. So as always, I started off with the quirky question of the day. And in honor of September 11th, my quirky question of the day is, after September 11th, when did you start to laugh again? Because for those of you guys who were old enough to remember, actually, it was, you kind of didn't know when to laugh. I mean, it was such a tragic event. And I remember turning on The Tonight Show thinking, oh my gosh, what a horrible day. I just need brevity. And you couldn't even really get it from there. I mean, Jay Leno, I think, started crying, which, he should. I mean, he's an American. But it was just really, really hard to find a time to know when to laugh again and when it was appropriate. And so that was my quirky question of the day. So as always, I want to give a shout out to the folks who answer the quirky question of the day. To my good friend Maureen Sullivan. She said she has to credit SNL, Saturday Night Live, with getting the laughter going. Mayor Giuliani thanking the firefighters on stage with lighthearted banter between him and Lorne Michaels. The skits were not really that funny, but the world had to laugh, and laughter indeed heals. They took bold steps to go on with the show, and I think that helped with the whole process. And I remember that as well, too. I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, the whole world's sad. The Tonight Show's not laughing. I mean, surely Saturday Night Live will bring some brevity, and it really did. I mean, I kind of remember, I mean, the skits weren't hilariously funny because it was at a point in our country's life where we weren't laughing or doing the normal sort of insults or parody that we normally do. But I do remember that. And then Maureen also went to say she found a quote in another person's page. What would we do without Facebook? I mean, everything's quotes. Everything's bite-sized little chunks. This is a quote from George Bernard Shaw. It says, "Life does not cease to be funny when people die any more than it ceases to be serious when people laugh." So that's a very, very good quote. And so thanks, Maureen Sullivan, if you're watching. Thank you for watching that. Also, Andrew Hall, he said he went out fishing and did things like a normal 11-year-old did. And I find that, because I was 31 years old when that happened. So to me, it was a grown-up thing. But now the folks who were little kids in 9/11 are grown adults now. Hey, Nolan, how old were you when 9/11 happened? Yeah. And of course, our our lovely guy in the booth isn't listening. But yeah, so and then also my good friend Suzanne Willette had said that on that Friday, the Friday after September 11th, a guy did a joke and said, you know, who's happy about 9/11? Gary Condit. And I actually had to Google Gary Condit because I remember him then, but it's been 11 years. So he was the guy with Chandra Levy, and he was in a lot of trouble up until September 11th. So that's that. As always, thank you guys so much for answer. Oh, I'm sorry, and I have one more person. My good friend Long Island Mary. She's a latecomer to the game. But she answered, she said, I don't know how long it was, but I'm sure I laughed later that day. It's how everyone I know deals with pain. We cry and laugh through funerals too. So that's how they do it in Long Island. So that's good stuff. We have got a bevy of guests. Nolan, you out there? Yeah, okay. Okay. Pardon me? You're Nolan? You've gotten a lot prettier to be Nolan. So, Nolan, if you could call Steve Netta, we're going to have Steve Netta on the line. He is a comedian, very funny comedian. In fact, he just headlined a club, a once-a-month club that I run, and he is going to be entertaining the troops this Friday, I think, along with Bonkers Comedy Club. And he's going to go entertain the troops and do his thing out there. If we could get him on the line. Hey, Nolan? See, when you have guys in the booth who have like a bevy of pretty blonde ladies, they don't tend to really pay attention to the quirky bird in the room wanting to talk about nerd comedy. Okay, do you mind giving Steve Netta a call? Okay. He's with the ladies. At least I got his attention now. So, yeah, if anyone wants to join in the conversation, it's 727-597-4022. Talking about September 11th, commemorating September 11th, talking about the military and finding humor from the military, as well as folks who go in and entertain for the troops. And there's a lot of military folks who are comedians. I know, like I say, Jose Sardui. Not only is he a comedian, he got the whole gang of different military personnel who are also comedians to come in and do their thing. We are looking up for Steve Netta. I have Steve Netta on here, and he's trying to call in. Actually, Steve, if you could call in, Nolan's got a.
Sorry about that. You've
got a gaggle of blonde ladies around you.
That's just how I roll these days. What can I say?
I know.
All right. I'm sorry. What now?
Can you give Steve Netta a call?
Yes, we're trying. Oh, you want me to do it a little early? Okay.
Oh, that's fine. I'm sorry.
Was that at 8:40?
That was at 8:40, which I guess it is 8:39. I see.
I'm punctual. I'm right on time. I'm right on time.
When I have a co-host, it seems to go really quickly. When I have no one to talk to, I just motor around.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone to argue with me or interject. Hey, what were you doing September 11th? Like the September 11th? You were probably a child, though, weren't you?
Yes, I was in a class of a teacher I hated more than anything. And she had a big, giant turkey neck. And you know me, I don't really talk mean about people, but this lady was really mean, and she hated me a lot. So when she was crying, because it's what she saw on the news, her turkey neck wouldn't stop wiggling. And I was only young at the time. I was like 12. And
so you laughed at her turkey neck.
I was laughing at her turkey neck, and I didn't know what was going on. And then I was the class clown as the reason she hated me. And I stood up, and I go, hey, look, another one's about to hit. And she goes, you sit down. And I was like, no, seriously. And then she looked, and then she just started crying. She went home. So that was how that went. And then everybody got to go home early.
Yeah, your friend Andrew actually replied to the quirky question of the day. He said he was only 11 years old. So, like, I was an adult. But I guess people of your generation were children, and now you grew up to be. Do you think it jaded you? Do you think you, being a child of the September 11th generation?
I mean, obviously, middle school, whatever. I might have been a little too young to really feel the huge impact of some of the people that lived there. You know what I mean? I understood what was going on, but... it's just like the Civil War. That was a huge thing too, but at the same time, it's we don't feel it as much as that.
Well, like the next biggest thing that ever really happened in my generation was like I remember when the space shuttle. We were not even alive, but when the space shuttle blew up, that was a big deal. But that didn't. I mean, that was just sort of a sad thing that happened. It didn't change, the whole entire course of America. It was just a really bad space shuttle accident. You got Steve on the line?
We're working on it. We're working on it right now. Let me get him. Oh, here he is right now.
Okay. Steve Netta, are you there?
Yes, how are you doing, Robin?
Thank you for calling, or well, for us calling you. Thanks for making the connection. I guess it doesn't matter who called whom, but
True.
And Nolan had a bevy of blonde ladies, so you could have you could have seen some pretty ladies had you came in here tonight, Steve Netta.
I'm on my way.
Now we are talking about September 11th and comedy and the military, and you've done your part of entertaining the troops, have you not?
Yes. A couple months back or so, I was, almost a year now, I was in Honduras. We have an air base in Honduras called Cano Air Base, and we actually, all four branches are represented there. Myself, Danny Bevins, and Chad Hufford went there. Okay. Actually, in 3 days, I will be going to Eglin Air Force Base, which is located right here in Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Okay.
Performing for the Air Force.
Now, how did you get involved in that?
Well, generally, bookers. The way the Honduras came up was I had done a show, and I forget where it was, up in a Sewanee Music Festival, actually. And the guy who booked it there came and saw my show when I was in Kissimmee, Florida, and said, hey, I really like you. You know, I have a bunch of military stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, let me know what you have. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he called me and said, look, I'm putting together a tour. Do you want to go over? I was like, sure. So I had to rush to get everything done because you have to get your passport done, which can take forever. You have to make shots are up to date, different stuff, and they had to figure out logistics of flying. It's actually it's fun. It's neurotic, but it's fun. It's almost like you're running at 180 miles an hour.
Oh wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, is it any okay? Is it any different than like a regular club? I mean, do you have to get your stuff?
Yes and no. It depends. Like where we did it at Cano, it's a little bit different because we were in basically what would be their recreation halls. They had, bars, but of course they're not bars like, they're kind of like basically 1 or 2 rooms with pool tables, stuff like that. Like a smaller kind of dive bar. But they take pride in it. I mean, it's very nice, but just the size of it. Where we did the shows, and here's something on, where we did the shows, all the people, it was like I said, the recreation hall, but everybody was lined up in, those black folding chairs. And then we actually, the microphone we had was basically a podium microphone. Like that's where they have like chapel services every day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it was just crazy. Eglin, I believe they do it in a bar, a sports bar that's on site.
Okay.
But we have to be vetted through the military. Even though I got clearance before, we had to resubmit for clearance, and you have to get security clearance to go on the base.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine you couldn't just walk onto a base. Wow, that's awesome. When you went to Honduras,
it's funny. Some of the questions they ask you, like they even ask you on the application, is have you ever been convicted of terrorist acts? Like, who is going to say yes? I mean, wouldn't that be kind of giving yourself away?
Okay, it was one terrorist act, but it was a misdemeanor terrorist act.
I mean, you can't brand me, George Bush.
You can't brand me. Now, I would imagine if it was stateside, I mean, I imagine they would have a fun time. But like if you're in Honduras, if you're in some place that maybe it's a foreign place, do you notice that like the troops are maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say grateful, but more appreciative of you guys going in there and doing your comedy?
I would say so. Just a little bit. I mean, they appreciate it no matter what, because what I tell people, it's funny, I have a lot of people come up to me after shows who are either, out of the military or they have family in the military, and they literally will come up and just thank me over and over again, buy me shots, of course, and beers, and they're like, please, thank you so much for everything you do for them, because the way that they kind of that I've talked with them about is that it's almost like when you're there performing for them, it just basically pauses their day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They actually have a slice of life again. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. It does. I mean, I would imagine, especially, I guess I keep bringing back Honduras. To me, Honduras doesn't seem like a barrel of, like, monkeys. Like, it doesn't seem like a place that people would be like, maybe I'll just go to Honduras for vacation. So I would imagine.
Well, they used to. One of the it's really weird, too. I mean, you also see different cultures. Because, I remember walking out of the airport in Tegucigalpa, and which is they have two capitals, an economic capital and industrial capital. So they have two different things. Those are like the two big cities.
Oh, okay.
But where we flew in, it was really weird because you fly in and it's in a basin of a mountain, so you actually have to circle around.
Oh,
a couple
my gosh.
times.
So is it like a little prop jet, or are you on those big, like, military planes?
No. We're on Continental.
Oh, really?
Continental flies directly into Honduras.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and what's weird is you come around and then it's weird. You see like all these little shanty towns. It's all these. Literally, it's 4 pieces of steel put together to make a house next to each other. You think in Florida we have 0 lot lines. These people have negative lot lines. And then you come in and there's the city, and it's built, and there's the airport. But when you walk out of the airport, there's, hustle and bustle, but there's military there. Their military, their government, that is literally in fatigues carrying AK-47s and M16s out in the open.
Wow.
Almost like you see at the airport now.
Yeah.
That's out in their streets.
Out and just
it's crazy. What's that?
You're just walking around, like if you're going to go like to 7-Eleven and get a pack of gum. They're just walking with their AK-47s down the street.
Exactly. There were like 3 of them standing there, their guns sling, and they have their hands resting on it. And I was waiting for the Bourne Identity, where all of a sudden a little black bag goes over my head, a little van screeches up, they throw me in the back, and I get taken. It was like totally like something from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was crazy.
You're like, tell my family I love them. Say, muzzle your mouth.
I know, that's what I mean. And then they put a thing and they think I'm some attaché to the ambassador or something. And like, what's going on? My family has $9. They're never going to give me. But like $9 there, they could eat like for 3 months. So
wow. So this is the second. I guess you said you're going this Friday. So is this the second time you've done the Air Force now? Now, did you? I'm sorry, I'm all over the page here. I remember seeing Chad Huffer because he's a friend of yours. I remember seeing him at Guantanamo Bay. Did you do Guantanamo Bay as well too?
No, I ended up not going. I misspoke the other day when I was saying when we went to Guantanamo, it was Chad and Danny went, and then I was scheduled to do a future date, but they ended up. The end of the year, they kind of redo their budget. So they ended up not doing it, but they said, hopefully soon. So I'm looking to do that. They had a great time in Guantanamo.
I was going to say, I saw pictures of like Chad. He was swimming, and it looked like he was in Puerto Rico or something.
Yes, it's Cuban waters. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's certain restrictions there too. Like they could even take pictures of Camp. What is that called? Camp X-Ray.
Well, what happened the last time they took pictures? Yeah.
Where the terrorists, they couldn't even. Because I guess a couple months prior to that, someone had gone there and they were walking around and they took pictures, posted it on the internet, and somebody got mad.
Well, I thought, like, in general, like, they took a bunch of pictures of, like, the prisoners, like, with their butts hanging out, but stacked in a pyramid. Like, I thought there was some terrible pictures that came from there.
That's just for the yearbook.
I really enjoyed being on your butt pyramid. We'll have to do it again.
Like that Geico commercial where the caveman, they have me on the bottom of the period, Brian.
So just in general, how long have you been doing comedy, Steve?
21 years.
21?
Half my life.
Wow. Wow. You know, I don't think I ever told you this, but way before I ever started doing comedy, I went to Side Splitters. I don't even think I had children back then, but it was like 10, 15 years ago. And you were emceeing. And I always think it's so cool. Like sometimes I'm just hanging out with you. I'm like, yeah, 10 years ago, I was just like a schmub in the audience and you were emceeing. I remember you because of your La Quinta joke.
Oh, that's right. So, it's funny. It's just, but see, that's what comedy is that, a lot of people go and they see comedies. That's how they start in this. And that's what I think is awesome is that you do a great job. And you see what I mean? Is that you saw that. And the way that I kind of view shows, whether I'm emceeing, featuring, headlining, and they go, you know what? These people may have never seen a show before. They may have seen lots of shows. But I'm going to give them the best show that I can, no matter what. Whether there's 4 people, which I performed in front of less than 4, or 3,000 people, which I performed in front of 3,000 people. And it's, it's that dedication. I think you're that same way, is that you're just naturally funny. But then what's funny is you have to learn that art of stand-up. You
do. And thank you for the compliment, but you really do.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I was always sort of the class clown and like the goofy one at the water cooler at work, but that kind of funny doesn't translate onto the stage. You have to find a way to be stage funny as well as regular person funny, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Because, you know why? Because conventional comedy is set up, punchline. And I didn't know, I knew set up, punchline with my friends, but I didn't know the terms. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what they were talking about with set up, and I had the punchline.
Exactly. It does. Or like if you're like hanging out with your friends drinking beer, they will listen to like your long story because they know like Aunt Mabel and that crazy old house that you want to talk about. But if you're in front of a group of people, you've got to trim the fat down and just make it boom, boom, boom. I mean, that's I think what I had to learn personally, because I can be a little windy at times. I had to learn if you're in a room of a group of strangers, get to the funny fast. I mean, that's,
Yep.
And
that's what I've learned. And I'll tell you what, Twitter has been an amazing tool for even 20 years into the game. I love Twitter now because when you tweet, you only have 140 characters.
You do.
So if I want to say something, I need to make it concise and relay the message that I want, whether it's painting a picture of what's going on or just getting to the punchline. But that's also made me reevaluate my act and find words that I don't need anymore, or sayings. Setups, and I saw this on the green room with Paul Provenza, setups are passé. Segues are passé. I'm sorry, not setups, segues.
Yeah.
You don't need to go, so speaking of bicycles, you know what I'm saying? How many people drinking? And I found myself doing that, and I was in that rut. And I said, you know what? I don't need to do that. I can just start talking because they want to see you as a monologist. Yes, you do engage them at times, and you need to. Sometimes you need to. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. That's part of MC, feature, or headliner. Sometimes you have to. But Twitter really made me look at the jokes that I was doing and say, how can I make this sharper? And you basically trim off the fat.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because I've noticed I'm sort of a writer at heart, so sometimes I'm really structured on like I have to do this joke because it all leads into each other. But then I see other comedians just sort of, you're right, not even having segues. You have one joke about maybe, I don't know, a GPS system, and then they go right into the joke about grandma's pudding. Like it doesn't, it's not like, oh, I was driving to grandma's house and then I had pudding. There was no that. It was just like, here's the joke, and then here's the new set of things that we're talking about.
But you also have to watch because if that's a shorter set, 5-10 minutes, you want to get 10 minutes worth of material in there. Mm-hmm. But what I always did was I kind of put things together in a group. Here's where I'm going to talk about being married. Here's where I'm going to talk about travel. Here's where I'm going to talk about, politics or religion or being Italian. Mm-hmm. And I kept those chunks together. But what I did was and I tell people this, I always viewed my material as a road map. Mm-hmm. I know how to get to my house. But if the crowd wants to take a left turn here, I'll go over there, and then, but at some point, I either have to stop them and go back to my material, or I can have something round in to another chunk of material.
Yeah.
You know, but but see, that's the thing. You know your act.
Uh-huh.
You know what you're going to do. So you should be able. It's like I said, like going to your house every day. You know how to get from the store to your house.
Uh-huh.
But if you want to take a trip elsewhere, you know where to go, but you always know how to get home.
That's a great analogy. I like that. And then you're right. Sometimes you're with crowds, and they might want to go to Publix rather than the Albertsons down the street. But as long as you know,
exactly.
Ultimately you need to get home.
And sometimes that's true improv. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Robin Williams, when he first started, would do that. You know, he's this great improv artist. But then they went to a taping of a show. Judy Carter says in her book. She's like, I went to this taping, and before the show, he's talking to the director, going, okay, now I'm going to do my, my Shakespeare bit. Then I'm going to go over to this side of the crowd and start doing my Death of a Sperm bit. Then I'm going to go over here. So he had all that mapped out, but it just seemed like improv, because the way you deliver the material and the way you do it, it just seemed, it becomes natural.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Even improving becomes natural because you're just talking then with your friends, and your friends being the crowd.
Your friends being 300 people in front of you.
Exactly. So, but you've talked in front of 50 drunk people before at a party.
That's true.
40 drunk people at a party.
I might have even been one of the drunk people at the party.
But that's the thing is, the way that I look at it is a show is a party. I mean, if you paid $10, $15, $20 to go to a show, don't you want to be entertained?
Yes, I agree. And that's why when I first started comedy, I was always worried about the heckle, like how would I deal with the heckler? But I have found, especially in this economy, most people don't want to deal with the heckler. So I find it's almost easier to shut them down. I mean, unless the heckler is just a whole lot funnier than me. But most people aren't like, look, I paid $15. I'm there, the club's charging me $6 a beer. I don't want to hear, the heckler scream. I want to hear the comedian that we paid to come in here.
What I've learned to do, and I've always dealt with hecklers this way, is not even hecklers. It's somebody that wants to pipe up in the middle of your set.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's they're answering a question, that's fine. But I just ignore them. Because when I ignore them, the rest of the crowd regulates them. The rest of the crowd is like, shut up, I want to listen. Do you understand what I mean? So why am I going to... It's like they don't show streakers on TV anymore during sporting events. Because they go, why give that person publicity? Because that's what they want.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, now have you ever had to deal with like a heckler or anyone, like a comedy helper? Sometimes I call them, like when you do the military shows. Is that any different?
No. Military shows, they enjoy the laughter. You know what I mean? They're just there to have a good time. And you know what? They may pipe up something, but you kind of pander to them for them to do it, but it's just, and that's the thing is, in military shows and all that, it's just like a regular crowd, except it's probably 98% guys, just speaking statistically.
Yes.
And, but it's just, they're there to have a good time.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing. And like I said, for an hour and a half of their time there, they actually like to feel like things are normal.
Yeah, kind of forget where they're at and just laugh with the show, and yeah, that's an awesome thing. You're doing a great thing there.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely into it, and I tell everybody, I'll do it every time. It's any time you tell me, I'll be there. It's funny you said in this type of an economy. That's actually one of the first jokes I wrote. One of the first ones that I did a show with Bill Maher.
Oh, did you?
In Philadelphia. Yeah, in Philadelphia at this comedy cabaret. It was they were doing it in downtown Philly. And one of the guys who writes for the big newspaper there, the Philadelphia Daily News, was there covering the show. He came to the show, and he used my quote for my act. Of all the stuff that Bill Maher did, blah, 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 he used my quote as, like, the byline.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, wow, my first time ever, And the joke was, in this type of economy, you need two sources of income. That's why I'm going to make sure that my wife has, two jobs.
2 jobs.
And then it was great. I'm like, how do you people think I afford these shoes? I mean, come on. You think I make money doing this? So that's the throwaway part of it. But that was like one of the first jokes I ever wrote.
That's funny. That's funny. So 20 years ago, you worked with Bill Maher. That's impressive.
It's funny. In fact, that when I worked with him, we were sitting outside talking before the show. On like that Friday or something, we were just sitting around BSing, and he's talking about he was about ready to start a show in New York called Politically Incorrect. It was the week before he taped the pilot episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just crazy. I was like there. You know what I mean? Literally, he did Saturday. Monday, he was going in to film the pilot.
Wow. And it
so
was
like
9/11 that ultimately got that show off the air. So we've gone full circle on this show.
You know what's funny? I mean, as a comic and also as a person, I understand what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
The people I think sometimes take, when they don't have personal investment, they take patriotism a little too far. I mean, they use it, but they basically wrap it around themselves for them to be jerks.
Well, and I think everything was so uber heightened at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything was so uber heightened at that point that...
But it's still now. That's why I told my wife, we'll never have another September 11th. And here's why. Because the minute on a plane that somebody even speaks something that remotely is not English, 200 ears are going to turn around and go, what was that?
Yeah.
We're all super sensitive to it.
Oh, I mean...
You understand what I mean?
It is. We got sucker punched, and I agree. I don't think that would ever happen again.
Oh, yeah, because the minute somebody does that, the minute somebody gets up and takes too long in the bathroom, you have U.S. Marshals coming on there. You have people, I mean, you read about limited instances now of people subduing somebody because they're acting crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to let 5 people with box cutters take down 100 people.
Yeah.
They're going to have 100 people go after those 5, and the first 5 might get hurt, the first 10 might get hurt, but those other 80 are going to make sure that person, that those 5 get stopped.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you so much for calling, or making the hookup connection. I'd love to have you back on sometime on the show. Yeah, you have a very interesting life. You've done a lot of awesome comedy things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have plenty of stories we could talk about sometime.
Now, if you wanted to plug anything, I don't know if you have a website or any upcoming shows. I mean, I know you have the one upcoming show or Facebook.
I'm working on the website. My Twitter is at and then the Steve Netta. So TheStevenetta. Not
like the other Steve Nettas.
Exactly. Well, there actually is.
Oh, is there?
So there's a Steve Netta in like Findlay, Ohio, and one day I will fly there and find him and punch him. But there is a Steve Netta, so it's just at the Steve Netta. A lot of times I tweet darker stuff on there, or they say Facebook is what you want your friends to see. Twitter is who you really are. Yeah,
I need to start following you because now that my mother's on Facebook, I kind of have to watch what I say. But I don't think she can figure out Twitter. But I need to start following you on Twitter.
And I absolutely love it. And like I said, it's helped my writing tenfold in the past year or so that I've done it.
Yeah, I can see
where it's amazing how concise you get.
Kind of trim the fat on everything. Okay.
Yeah, and you can save drafts. I mean, you can go back to stuff. You can look at it, but then you just learn to chop words that are unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but yes, please, anytime, let me know, and I'd love to talk again.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for calling in. And you did a great job at my club last week at Chase. So they were kind of a quiet crowd, but you got them a little unwound. I don't know.
But that's the thing. I mean, I've literally done a show in front of 2 people.
Yeah.
So I don't care. I just want to be on stage. I just want to make people laugh, whether it's 2 people or or 3,000.
Actually,
And I think you do a great thing there. It was a good amount of people who have been there before. And, what's funny is I saw everybody watching TV, but the minute that you started the comedy, everybody turned their heads to watch.
Oh, did they? Did they?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like that crowd treats me like my children treat me. Like, they're sort of like, she's here again. I know the good stuff's going to start. Let's just patronize her, and then the real show will start. So I appreciate that.
I think you're wrong. I mean, I really think that that what they did, like I said, is they really were on. I mean, the minute you stopped, they were ready to listen.
They were. Okay. Well, I'm proud. That's the little bar that could. I'm proud of them now.
Yeah, it was very good. So.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, Steve. And we'll get together with the Twitters.
Well, thank you very much. And like I said, follow me, and I'll follow you back. If somebody follows me, I always follow them back. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you very much. You have a good one.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. That was Steve Netta, a comic extraordinaire. And I think coming up, we've got Jose Sardui. Is he on the line now? Or you're Nolan's getting him out there. So we had Steve Netta talking about entertaining the troops. Always crazy in the studio. I had my daughter out running around, but now I have her safely in front of me, quietly eating Cheetos. So and watching SpongeBob. Is all well there, Katie? Even my daughter ignores me. So we got good stuff. All right, and we got Jose Sardui. Like I say, Jose is a member of the Air Force, and he does military shows where he gets 4 guys all in different branches of the service to come and do a show. And actually, Jose Sardui, I believe he is Puerto Rican. He's very funny. I've had the chance to work with him twice, and once was just maybe 6 months ago, and he rocked every single show. We had 7 shows, and okay. And every single show, he rocked it out. First time I met him, he was opening for Andrew Dice Clay. He was Andrew Dice Clay's opener, and he was absolutely funny. Sometimes when you have the bigger clubs and they have the bigger acts coming into the club, it's the feature act has to be really strong because the bigger act isn't going to do every single show, especially like if some clubs have 7 shows. So Jose was the smaller shows, like the Saturday night late show or the Thursday show. He was the headliner, where Andrew Dice Clay, I think, only did like the probably just the Friday and Saturday show. That's sometimes when you get the big dogs coming in, they're not going to want to do the smaller shows. So you have to get a really strong feature to do the bigger shows. So I think we're still waiting on getting our connection in there with Jose Sardui. So it's a good all around show. I appreciate it once again everyone who calls in for the quirky question of the day. Try to keep it out there. Try to chum up the waters. Okay. Now, I almost called you Aaron.
Well, it looks like we're on hold here, Robin.
Okay.
Do you want me to put the patch through music through?
No.
It's really entertaining. It's quite quirky.
It's quite quirky. Now, you should be used to kind of this red tape of the Air Force, since you yourself used to be in the Air Force, Nolan.
Yeah, I used to be in the Air Force, and all the red tape, I know exactly what that means. I do.
An opportunity to give thanks.
He's trying to ad-lib here. I don't know what's going on.
What did you do in the Air Force? I know, like, you didn't start comedy until after you
I told you I would have to kill you.
I mean, you didn't. Did you, like...
Do you love your family?
I love my family. That's why my baby girl's eating Cheetos on the floor.
Eat those Cheetos off the floor. No,
September morning, as America watched the towers fall and the Pentagon burn.
Oh, I hear Barack Obama.
Yeah,
did he patch Barack? Do I have Barack Obama and not Jose Sardui on the line?
I think we do.
Where had the attacks come from?
Yep.
Okay.
How would America respond?
Barack, how do you feel about
Would they
9/11?
fundamentally weaken the country we love?
Okay.
Would they change who we are?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the Quirky Bird Show, Barack Obama.
But together, we've answered those questions and come back.
You're not supposed
strong.
I agree.
You're not supposed to interrupt the president.
Today in Air Force history.
But it's my show. Shouldn't I be able to interrupt the
that's right.
president?
That's right.
If it's my show, for him calling in.
I mean, we do have the right number, correct?
I believe so. Did you ask for Major Sardui?
Passengers on the fourth aircraft
I will try to call right back. How about that? We try to hang up and call right back.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for calling in, Barack Obama.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Okay, so we, as always, anytime I don't have a co-host, I'm shucking and jiving all by myself, having issues with the phones and all sorts of problems. But we'll get it figured out. And I have actually a great announcement. The Quirky Bird Show is actually switching times. Sometimes, for those of you who watch the Entertainment Global Network. Entertainment Global Media, I think I said it wrong. There's a show called What the Hell, I think, and it's kind of a provocative show, and we decided to switch times. I think they want it a little bit later, and I'll be a little bit earlier. So from now on, you'll see the Quirky Bird Show at 7:30 to 8:30 rather than 8:30 to 9:30. So set your calendars. Right, next Tuesday, the switch is coming. Oh, okay. He Nolan's out there still trying to get a hold of Jose Sardui. And for those of you who follow the shows by Entertainment Global Media, they had a whole big shindig, a whole big party, red carpet event 1 year, not just for the arts radio, but 1 year for Comedy Slam Radio, Rock Slam Radio, all sorts of festivities took place. Reginald Roundtree, for those of you guys in the Tampa area, he's one of the network guys, one of the news people. He was there. I think he emceed our little shindig. So a good time was had by all. So anyone out there, if you have any suggestions for the quirky question of the day or any themes, I would love to hear them. When I first started, I was chock full of ideas, lots of themes. I did most of the themes, and now I'm running out of themes. So if you think of any themes that you would like to see in comedy, I'm also a big reading geek, so I want to try to get some authors in here, some humorists. And still no.
We're working on the transfer right now.
Working on the transfer right now.
I had to give him my top security clearance.
Oh, did you?
It's ringing. Oh, nervous. Oh.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey, Jose. Is this Jose?
Hello?
Jose? I don't think he can hear me. Jose?
Hello?
Hey,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. This is Robin from the Quirky Bird Show. Robin Savage.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much. I know it's been a little bit crazy with the whole communications issue, but thank you for coming on to my show, Jose.
No problem. Am I on?
You are. I'm sorry. It was not a sweet transfer. It could have been.
No. Well, I'm glad I didn't say anything funny. Ooh. I saved it.
Save it.
What's up? How's it going on? What's going on?
Oh, I have my little internet radio podcasty thing going on, and in commemoration of September 11th, I thought I would do a military themed show, and you were one of my favorite military comedians, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your brand of humor and what you do with the military shows. You bring what four different comedians from 4 different branches of the service, and you guys do military bases in the shows?
You mean the GIs of comedy? We're vets that are comics. Right now we've got 3 branches represented: Army, Marines, and Air Force. We had a Navy guy, but that fell through, and then we were looking for a Coast Guard guy, but they're flaky. So we.
You heard it here, folks.
No, I'm kidding. The Coast Guard's awesome, but they're not DOD anymore. They're Department of Transportation or something. I don't know. They do something important, but we just want to do bases mostly to just raise awareness. When we do shows outside of bases, that's when we raise awareness, raise money for Special Operations Warrior Foundation. So we picked that because one of our guys was a special operator in the Army, and the charity raises money for fallen soldiers, like their kids, to go to college.
Oh wow!
I'm not speaking in complete sentences today, and I'm just going to give you fragments. You guys piece it together.
That's the way I usually am.
Instead of asking you how's it going, I said
how's you, or something like that at the beginning. So just bear with me.
Okay.
We do shows at military bases because we got a lot of letters once the GI's a Comedy idea was started by Tom Tran. People coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, and there was just a Time article on it, a lot of suicides and a lot of soldiers having a tough time coping, being back home because the war environment was so stressful. So we wanted to give back to the soldiers and perform for them. If we could go overseas, we would. But the whole point was, to remind them, hey, we're all here. There's more to it. You can get through this, because that was the message that he received essentially when he got back from the war, and so we try to raise awareness for that kind of thing and raise money and help the soldiers that way. And none of that's really easy to make funny. So
Yes.
What we normally do is just tell funny stories about being in the war zone and about just being in the military in general, because it's, for the most part, it's ridiculous that anyone would pick up a gun and shoot at anybody else. And so to train an 18-year-old to do that requires a lot of patience, because people tend to be dumb at that age in general. So you're taking a kid that would have joined a fraternity, and then you're going to teach him to, hey, don't shoot anyone with our colors. So it's inherently, I think, what soldiers use in the field to get through tough situations is humor.
That analogy of, had they not had a gun in their hand, they would have been a frat. I swear, like, anxiety just balled up in my chest. I'm like, those are the same people. Okay, I'll try to get over that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in basic training, there was this little girl, and she was a brilliant engineer, but like not a physical soldier. Like, that's why she joined the Air Force, because you don't need to be. You can, we have some pretty good soldiers and some pretty good physical specimens, but if you can contribute by pushing papers and being in the acquisition side, getting new weapon systems and all that, which requires you to have a minimum level of physical fitness, and she was right at that minimum. And so one day we were practicing bayoneting haystack. It's just a big, like, squares of hay, and you put a bayonet on the rifle, and you practice stabbing, and she almost stabbed herself.
Wow.
And if you know anything about a rifle and a bayonet, how impossible that is.
Well, it's long. I mean, so you'd have
that you could almost stab yourself. Everybody was like, it was like if you give a handgun to a baby, is what it. Everybody stepped back, whoa, control. So there are people that really, you would look at them and you're like, well, they're not really cut out to be a soldier. And so, but you can take them and mold them and get them to be the minimum level that we need, which is still, I mean, it's not a Spartan or anything, but it's still an important piece in the greatest military the world has ever seen. So
absolutely. Now I've seen your just normal like non-GI act, and you have a lot of stuff. I would say your two main themes of your act are your family growing up. You're Puerto Rican, correct? And also the military.
Cuban. That's close.
I'm sorry.
We also don't pay taxes to the United States, but different islands. Just a little bit different government, just a smidge. Communism versus a republic. But yeah, we have the same food at least, and we both claim Ricky Martin as ours. So yeah, that's part of my act. I think every comedian's act, if it's going to be self-revelatory, should really, if you're going to keep putting out albums, it should mimic your life. It should reflect your life. When I was in the military full time, if I did 45 minutes, I would say 25 was my military time, because that's kind of the percentage. Now that I'm doing 6 days a month as an Air Force reservist, it's down to about that kind of percentage of my life, and that's the part of the act that I talk about. So I don't know. I mean, I enjoy every part of it. I enjoy every part of the act that I do, and I like talking about my life. It's just, I think that's the simplest place to tell jokes from, is even if you're going to do something difficult, like, I got shot at in Iraq, And
did you?
it wasn't jarring at the time. At the time, I was like, "Oh, they're shooting. Okay, well, this is what I got to do." Because they're shooting. But then afterwards, you're like, shooting! They were shooting! So you tell those stories and you tell the funny things about it that you thought about it later. It's like, dude, you didn't stop eating your sandwich when they were shooting at us. Like, well, I was hungry. Stuff like that. At the moment, it's like, hey, somebody's eating a sandwich. And you just lock that into your memory and you process it. And then later it comes back. That's how I got one of my first call signs, which was PA, which stands for pressure altitude.
Uh-huh.
Because we were flying in somewhere and everybody was locked and loaded. Everybody had vests on. We had all of the anti-weapon gear ready to go. We had missile threats in the area. And this was my first flight in my cargo plane. So I'm sitting between the two pilots and I'm entering data into the computer. One of them was pressure altitude. And so while I'm inputting this data, we get attacked. Well, it was unconfirmed attack, but it was a missile launch.
Oh my goodness.
And the airplane banks up. They pull the engines, and they're releasing flares, and it's really loud. Like 8 guys are on the intercom. We got a missile left side, brake right. It's like all this chatter. And in the middle of that chatter, I go, "Hey, did anybody get the pressure altitude?" I was so focused on the landing computer, it didn't even register that we were like moving around for our lives. So afterwards, when we landed the plane, everybody was like, "Okay, we made it." And then somebody goes, "Did you ask for the pressure altitude in the middle of like the missile launch thing?" I was like, "Well, yeah, it's important. It's got to be in the computer." So stories like that are funny to soldiers.
Yeah.
You can relate them to the average person. It takes a lot more explanation, obviously, to get someone who's never been in the service to get it. But it would be the same thing. There's probably inner stories at McDonald's about the funny stuff that happens in the back. Using verbiage we don't know. We really, it's the RCR. What's that? It's the really crappy cooker or whatever. The RCC. The really crappy cooker was burning and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's just relating your life to the average person and getting them to put themselves in your position at the time. And that's, you can do that with anything. So that's why the military stuff, it took me a while to figure it out, but then once I did, people really enjoy it.
They do. Like I say, I mean, I've never seen your base shows, and I would imagine that your base shows would be probably all military, since everyone in the base is military. But you do a great job of kind of explaining what you do and making it funny. We work.
At the base, I don't really add much. There's some inside jokes that we tell if it's all soldiers. Mm-hmm. Basically within the base, kind of and they're really just are the old jokes that military people tell to each other, that we think are infinitely funny. Like anytime there's a guy driving by in a car and he's wearing his camouflage uniform, even if his face is not painted, just on an everyday. Mm-hmm. Like the oldest joke in the military is like, "Hey, nobody's driving that car. The car's driving itself." And we just laugh at that all the time. So inside jokes like that, we add a little bit of it when we do military bases, but I'm big on making jokes universal. So when you tell them, if you're going to do it at an urban show, maybe you throw, a mofo in there a little bit, but otherwise the joke stays the same as you would do at a high-end corporate function.
Do you do that? The one jokes that really stand on my mind is the jokes you do. You the impression of your mother. Do you do still your mother jokes at the army base, or not the army, but the military base?
I do my mother jokes. It was kind of interesting that that is universal, that people, you have a weird mother, and my mother has an accent, so the ethnic thing happens all the time, because it's just her expressions. She means something else in Spanish, and she thinks in Spanish, and then in English it comes out. Like I introduced her to a girlfriend of mine once. Her name was Stacia, and my mom couldn't pronounce that right. My mom's like, "How'd you say it?" And I go, "Mom, it's Stacia." She's like, "Stacia." And I'm like, "Oh, try it again." And she's like, "Stacia." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay. Just give it a shot, Mom. I'm sure she'll be fine with it." So I introduce her. I'm like, "Mom, this is my girlfriend, Stacia." And my mom goes, "I just call all of you baby." Now, that wasn't meaning to say that I'm a whore, but that's how it came out. Like my bedroom has one of those Western doors. And just it's easy in and out.
I love the people that Jose.
Yeah, but that's my mother. I think that's and I tell jokes about how little I know about the military. It's just that culture thing. And I would do it for anything. Like if I was cast as the next Spider-Man, I would tell jokes about how my mother would react to that. She's like, I don't like a Spider-Man. You can see all of his things with the tights on. Maybe you'll still be Batman. Like that. No matter what situation I could put in, my mother would say something that in Spanish would be kind of comical, but in English, the way she says it, it's just hilarious.
Well, I'm getting the signal from the folks in the booth. I think we have another show coming on next. Thank you so much for calling in. Tell everyone like your website, your email address, anywhere that they can find you and get a hold of you.
Sounds good. Yeah, Jose Sarduy, JoseSarduy.com, JoseSarduy.com. JOSE, please, not Jose like Jose and Jose. I have to mention that for people in Kentucky. And you can just Google that, and all from JoseSarduy.com, you can go to my Twitter and my Facebook and all that stuff on there. And I'm on all the media. You can look me up on YouTube. I got a bunch of clips so you can look up. You guys are in the South Florida area, in the Tampa area?
Yeah, right? And in Tampa.
Okay. I'll be back at Side Splitters Thanksgiving Day weekend.
Oh, okay.
So I think the 22nd to the 25th, so they can check me out at Side Splitters.
Okay, yeah, I worked. I mean, I know you work so much; it all blends together. But the weekend we worked together was with Cletus T. Judd. It was a fun.
That was an interesting show. Yeah, that was.
It was like 7 shows, and you killed all 7 shows. That's the one thing.
After Cletus, I mean, he even said it like my show is really good with a band, but this is just me. He's like, I'm not a stand-up act. That's not me. I'm like, maybe you should say that afterwards. Don't lead him off of that, Cletus. No, but he's a good dude. And,
you ended up
kind of a fun weekend.
Closing the show.
The other thing, the GIs of Comedy. You can go to gisofcomedy.com. Just Google that. It's just GISOFCOMEDY.com. And if you want to get us in your city, you can let us know. Hit us up on Facebook and everything, because that's a tour we're on right now.
Okay.
And we're probably going to film a special that we're going to try and sell to Comedy Central here, and maybe have it air for 4th of July weekend next year.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Jose, and we'll keep an eye out for all of that.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay, and thanks for calling in, Jose.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I think that's it for the Quirky Bird Show. We new time next week, 7:30. Yeah, 7:30. Thanks for doing all that, my friend. 7:30 to 8:30. Okay, and thank you for calling in. We will see you next time on the Quirky Bird Show.